Most ravers know the mantra peace, love, unity, respect, or as they call it, PLUR. It's a guide for ravers and clubbers that grew out of a desire to be in a safe and inclusive community. It assures that those who feel like they're without a home can find one on the dance floor. Because of that, fights and scuffles at a rave are pretty rare, and the atmosphere itself tends to be welcoming and loving. And that all sounds great, right? For 28-year-old Kyle Huff, it might have sounded great at first, but soon enough, for him, rave became a synonym for all evil in this world, and he needed to get rid of that evil, no matter the cost.
Discretion is advised. This is 10-Minute Murder.
Welcome to 10-Minute Murder, brief and bingeable true crime. I'm Joe, the host, and I appreciate you being here today. And you're going to have to excuse me because I'm a little bit out of breath. I imagine I'll catch it at some point, but I just ran upstairs because I realized that I had Panda Express earlier, and I forgot my drink upstairs. In my studio where I do all this is downstairs, so I ran up the stairs really quick and back down the stairs because I didn't want the ice in my sweet tea to melt before I got to it again. So now I'm out of breath because I'm clearly in very good shape. And that's obviously sarcasm, but pre-Panasonic, in the before times, I could run up and down a flight of stairs without getting out of breath. I'm not bragging, but I was in okay shape. I could do a flight of stairs without gasping for air. But I will say this, I did research different home exercise equipment solutions to get. Just this morning, I was looking at row machines on YouTube, watching different people demonstrate the different varieties of row machines. And I was eating, full disclosure, I was eating chocolate chip cookies while I was doing that. But I was doing it. I was watching, trying to learn about what I needed to get. And I'm just killing time right now until I can catch my breath before we can get started with this show. And quickly, before we do get started, make sure you're subscribed to 10-Minute Murder so that you don't miss any future episodes of this podcast. Also, follow along on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can connect with the podcast there. Just search for 10-Minute Murder in the search bar or go to the show notes of this episode, and you'll find the links to where you can follow 10-Minute Murder. Now, let's get to the story. Mary Kay and Willis Huff got married in California in 1972. 5 years later, twins Kyle and Kane were born on September 22nd, 1977. They grew up in Montana in a wood-framed home right outside of Whitefish on a road called Sasquatch Hollow. That location was perfect for kids that like to play games outside. Kyle's childhood friend, a boy named Dustin Hoon, recalls them spending hours and hours reading adventure books such as The Hobbit and playing in the woods. Both Kyle and Kane also played Little League Baseball and began to show interest in music in junior high school. Dustin said they used to jam to Metallica songs, Kyle playing the drums. As time passed, his love for music only got deeper, but the interest in sports began to fade, which was a shame for the Whitefish High School football team. The twins were wanted players, and they were both around 6'5", but as for Kyle, he was more into music and film and drama than running around on a field. According to those close to him, Kyle was basically a gentle giant, always full of laughter. He was friendly with everyone and made a special effort to support those left out by the more popular kids. As Dustin recalled, quote, he was strong mentally and he was gentle with his strengths and would befriend those who weren't accepted by larger cliques. He was not superficial. Kyle didn't really seem withdrawn in any way. He appeared to be quieter though, and less confident than his twin. Kane had a girlfriend after high school and Kyle did not. However, in turn, he had a loyal friend group with whom he had grown up. They often partied together in an apartment that Kyle and his brother shared, located just above the art shop owned by their mother. Mary Kay and Willis had divorced in January 1992, 4 years before their son's graduation, apparently because of Willis's issues as a Vietnam veteran. But the separation was handled in a civilized way, and the couple agreed to joint custody of the twins, which meant that the boys would stay with one of their parents for 6 months each year. In the process, Mary also changed the spelling of their last name. And so she and her sons became the Huffs, Huff. At first, after the divorce, Willis appeared to be part of the twins' lives. Whatever the problems he had with Mary did not affect his relationship with his sons. To them, Willis was more of a friend than a strict disciplinarian. However, after being arrested and charged with 2 felony counts for growing and intent to sell marijuana and placed on probation, Willis moved to Portland, 10 hours away from his sons. At this point, the twins didn't have too many plans for the future. Kyle briefly attended local community college where he studied art and philosophy but soon dropped out, began to take odd jobs around town and sit in at local bar booths with his brother and friends, drinking and talking for hours. Now, we all know bar fights happen sometimes. Someone's been drinking too much or someone just wants to show their friends how cool they are in a stupid way. And even though you would think that the big Huff twins would be left alone, of course, there's always going to be someone stupid enough to try their luck with them. However, according to a longtime friend of the twins, Danny, if someone was trying to pick a fight, Kane, not Kyle, was more likely to take part in the brawl. He said, quote, "When Kyle got into a fight, it was almost always to end the fight. He never took a swing." Instead, Kyle would often talk to those acting aggressive towards him and actually ended up becoming friends with them. Until this point, Kyle had not been anything other than a model citizen. But in stories like these, there's always that one incident. One summer night in 2000, Kyle took his 12-gauge Winchester pistol grip shotgun and a .40 caliber semi-automatic Ruger handgun to a local bed and breakfast and blew a fiberglass moose sculpture to bits for one reason or another. Nobody really knows. While many Whitefish residents considered it just to be a silly prank, Kyle was arrested and charged with felony criminal mischief, and his guns were taken away. Initially, he pleaded no contest and paid restitution and a fine and was ordered to perform community service. However, after some bargaining, Kyle changed his plea to guilty to a misdemeanor for which he paid a fine of $761 and was asked to write a letter of apology to the sculptor, John Rawlings, a local teacher and artist. Also, as the charge against him was reduced, Kyle was able to get his guns back. Unfortunately, the very same ones would be later pointing at very different kinds of targets. Sometime after May 2002, Kyle and Kane made their longtime dream come true and moved to Seattle, mainly because of the music scene in the city. There, Kane attended North Seattle Community College and received an associate's degree, while Kyle kept working for several pizza companies. Whenever possible, the two visited their old friends back in Whitefish. There, Kyle didn't talk much about his new home in Seattle. Nothing seemed to be wrong, but nothing also seemed to be exciting enough to share. Nevertheless, his friends got the impression that Kyle missed Whitefish and his old group, and was maybe thinking about plans to return to his hometown, but that wasn't going to happen. On March 24th, 2006, Kyle attended a zombie-themed rave, Better Off Undead, at the Capitol Hill Art Center by himself. He wasn't dressed up and he wasn't dancing, he was just being a wallflower at the party for most of the evening. You could say that he didn't really fit in. Kyle was approached by 26-year-old Jeremy Martin, who offered him a swig from his whiskey flask and invited him to join their after-party at 2112 East Republican Street. Kyle agreed to stop by. At the 2-story bluish-gray aluminum-sided house, about 25 people were listening to music, dancing, watching TV, drinking beer, or smoking marijuana in the basement. All the basic house party stuff. Kyle arrived sometime between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. that morning. A change of scenery made no difference whatsoever in his demeanor. Kyle stood out from the crowd, and not just because of his size. He looked, dressed, acted, and talked differently from everyone else. Yet several partygoers attempted to speak and connect with him, but for some reason, he seemed to feel more comfortable just standing off by himself. At dawn, those who were not asleep on the couches, beds, or the floor began to leave. So did Kyle Huff, but only for a moment. Shortly before 7 a.m., he exited the house, walked to his Dodge pickup truck around the block, and gathered the 12-gauge shotgun and the .40 caliber handgun, plus more than 300 rounds of ammunition. On his way back to the house, Kyle stopped 3 times to spray paint the word "Now" on the sidewalk and the steps of a neighboring home. As soon as Kyle returned to the house on East Republican, he opened fire. At the front porch, he shot 21-year-old Christopher Williamson and 14-year-old Melissa Moore using both weapons. People inside who heard the gunshots tried desperately to close the door, but its path was blocked by the legs of Melissa, and Kyle was able to force his way in. He walked calmly to the living room, where those hiding behind the couches were safe from his bullets. 3 others, 22-year-old Justin Schwartz, 32-year-old Jason Travers, and 15-year-old Suzanne Thorne, were not so lucky. Inside the house was complete chaos. People were screaming and trying to get out in any way possible, or hide wherever they could and hope for the best. Meanwhile, Kyle walked upstairs, giving a chilling announcement on the way, quote, "I've got enough ammunition for everyone." Gary Will and Alyssa Dunn, who had been talking about the relationship in a bathroom while she reapplied her makeup, now hid behind the locked door. Kyle shot twice, putting 2 large holes in the wooden door, but he didn't stay to make sure his targets were actually dead. That couple was not hit and survived the attack. Afterward, Kyle returned downstairs and walked toward the first-floor bathrooms. On the way, he saw multiple people, but for some reason, he chose not to pursue them. The same happened downstairs in the basement, where Kyle could have easily located several other potential victims, but did not fire his weapons. It seemed like he had either lost his interest in shooting, or it wasn't giving him as much satisfaction as he thought it would. Whichever the case, after about 4 minutes of the senseless massacre, Kyle stepped back through the front door and toward the sidewalk. Officer Steve Leonard arrived on the scene at about 7:05 a.m. He had been patrolling near the area and actually heard the gunfire before most of the 911 calls had even been made. And there were, by the way, 17 911 calls made. He saw a large man coming from down the stairs with weapons in his hands. The officer prepared himself for the worst, but as soon as he shouted, "Drop your," Kyle put his shotgun in his mouth and pulled the trigger. In addition to the dead bodies, authorities found several terrified survivors hiding in various places in the house, except for one. One survivor slept through the entire bloodbath and was awoken by rescuers. Following the shooting, the police searched Kyle's truck and the apartment that he shared with Kane and found more guns and ammunition, as well as a baseball bat and machete. Kane was, of course, questioned and later released. The massacre was an open and shut case. We know who the shooter was and what he did. However, what we don't know for sure is why. There was absolutely nothing indicating Kyle would one day pick up his guns and kill 6 people. His friends and family didn't see any signs of the gentle giant's dark side. However, in July 2006, a panel of experts who researched the case concluded it's likely that Kyle would have initially investigated raves to find new friends. The community offered both music and the opportunity to join a group known to be welcoming to all. Perhaps Kyle was then rejected at some point or felt rejected just because he didn't really fit in, even though the people were friendly towards him. Kyle, who was known for not being very affectionate, might have felt uncomfortable with the frequent shows of affection among ravers rather than off-putting or phony. There was a suicide note that Kyle had given his brother on March 23rd, just a couple of days before the massacre. In the letter, Kyle said that he was defending society from the promiscuous rave culture that he perceived as dangerous and evil. Apparently, he felt, quote, raped by his interaction with ravers. According to the expert report, the letter reflects paranoid thinking of a man with delusions of his important role of saving society, seeing himself as a revolutionary out to protect the world from evil. Other than that, we can only really guess what was going on inside Kyle Huff's head, what happened when he moved to Seattle and why he attended raves in the first place, and what was so horrible in rave culture Kyle felt a need to protect the whole world from it. That's today's 10-minute murder. Brief and bingeable true crime. I'm Joe, and I appreciate you listening today. If you are new here, like I mentioned at the beginning, make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss any future episodes of 10-Minute Murder. Also, if you've got friends and they're into brief true crime stories, maybe like the one I just told you, let them know about 10-Minute Murder. Thanks for listening. Be safe, and have a good night.